What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We're just a few hours away from kickoff in the Sugar Bowl between the Huskies and the Longhorns. But before we get there, we do have to get through Snap Count Monday, as we pretty much always do on Monday, if possible, so we can understand exactly what the Seahawks were doing with their player rotations and snap count balancing, etc., etc., etc. So, let's start with the offense like we always do, and to kick things off, 49 offensive snaps by the offense is tied for a season low. So even though the offense played pretty good, even though the offense did their job for the most part, even though they put up 23 points, even though they were able to move the ball fairly well, especially before the injuries hit, 49 plays because this defense can't get off the field at all. This defense is completely incapable of getting off the field. They're incapable of forcing a turnover. And somehow, some way, here we are with 49 plays on offense. It continues to be the most dangerous lie ever told about this Seattle Seahawks team, is that the defense is only bad because the offense hangs them out to dry. It is a dangerous lie. Not just a lie, it is dangerous. If people actually think that, it is going to completely change perceptions on what needs to be done this offseason, which is why I talk about it so much, because it's patently not true. It's not even close to being true. And if we don't address the problem at its root source, it will never get fixed. So yeah, 49 offensive snaps on a game when the offense actually played pretty good is pretty gross. We don't even have 1,000 total snaps on offense this year, and we have one game left. It's pretty embarrassing. If this was a normal 16-game season like it should be, we'd be coming in at just under 1,000 snaps on offense total. All right, so running backs. You got Ken Walker with 21, which makes sense because he got hurt and missed a couple drives. You had Charbonnet get 28, which also kind of makes sense because we were passing the ball so much because we were behind and we had to because the defense is terrible. So you get 28 snaps for Charbonnet because he is your pass down running back. He is a better pass catcher than Walker probably. He's also a better, I think, blocker. And he did both of those things pretty well on Sunday, so no complaints there. And that's it. Nothing for DJ Dallas in this game out of the backfield, which is interesting. Not the first time it's happened this year, but it is certainly notable that he did not get a single snap as a running back. Still no Kenny McIntosh. We're clearly just treating this as kind of a redshirt year, which, I mean, I guess that's okay. I don't have a big problem with it. If the injury set him back significantly, then it's totally understandable. But I'm excited to see him next year. And that's it for the running backs. That accounts for everything. Wide receivers. We got DK Metcalf playing almost the whole game, 47 snaps. He misses 2 snaps the whole game. Makes sense. Also tells you that the injury wasn't really affecting him because he did play fairly well. Lockett gets 40 snaps. Very little impact from him, unfortunately, but a decent number of the snaps for sure. And even though Metcalf missed a whole game back in week 6, you can see that by the end of the season, after this final game, there's a good chance that Metcalf and Lockett are going to basically be even in the snap count distribution. Basically even. So it took a little while for us to get there, but we have ultimately landed in a place where Metcalf is clearly becoming the number one receiver on this team. And JSN plays 33 snaps. So pretty decent amount of the game. I mean, 33 of 49 is a strong percentage. We're definitely getting there with him, and he only had the one catch, but it was a great catch, and we continue to trend in a good direction with JSN. Jake Bobo was the only other receiver to get snaps. He had 5 of them. I think he had a catch in this game. Yeah, he did. So when we don't have enough plays on offense, it's harder for Bobo to get out there. That's another thing that happens when you don't have a ton of snaps, I feel like. Like if we're playing a normal number of snaps, he probably gets closer to 10 because those extra snaps just give us more flexibility to play with. But we are headed towards very possibly Bobo having about 300 snaps on the season as a UDFA rookie. That is phenomenal, and he's providing actual value. So pretty exciting, pretty happy about it. And that's it for the receivers. Let's go down to the tight ends, and you will see a interesting distribution. Noah Fant had his best game of the year, probably 22 snaps, so less than half the game. Disley, 21 snaps, so a little less than half the game. The only tight end to play more than half the game was Colby Parkinson, who also had a pretty good game, made a few catches out there. He's still a good blocker. So I don't think there's a lot of rhyme or reason to it. I think we just kind of go with whatever our formations on those plays say. It's just kind of weird to have a game a week ago where Noah Fant leads your team in tight end snaps by far and does nothing, and then the next week he plays less than half the game and he's actually kind of balling out there. He actually, again, maybe his best game of the year. So I don't know what the plan exactly is at tight end going forward, but you look at these Will Dissly tight end snaps in particular, and obviously he had a bigger share of the snaps in this game than most. But pretty much every game he's playing less than half the snaps, and in some of these games he's playing less than a third. He's playing close to a quarter. So I'm really, really hoping that the Seattle Seahawks recognize the fact that he's just not providing a lot of value here and are willing to part ways this offseason because that money could be better spent elsewhere. And other than that, I mean, this just kind of is data. Okay, offensive line here. Cross plays every snap. Lewis plays every snap. And Anthony Bradford played every snap. But other than that, we were not able to maintain our hoped stability. Evan Brown plays about half the game, gets a concussion, and then has to leave. So Oluwatimi plays the second half. And I mean, he played okay. I don't really have a big issue with anything he did except for like the direct snap to K9, which it's stupid to ask a backup center to do a direct snap to K9 anyway. So that's not really his fault either. So pretty intriguing stuff. I'm definitely interested in giving Oluwatimi an extended look next week. And at this point, I don't think there's any reason not to. I mean, except for maybe continuity, but at this point, with the season going the way that it is, I don't even know how much I value that anymore. I'd rather just try to figure out if Oluwatimi has something in his bag that is valuable to me going into 2024. Well, we're in 2024 now, but the 2024 season. Abe Lucas got through 21 snaps and then had to leave, and Stone Forsythe came in, and I thought played admirably. I'm not going to say he played great or anything like that, but I mean, he's a backup right tackle going up against T.J. Watt. What can he do? He didn't embarrass himself. I'm cool with it. And look, Stone Forsythe has 1 year left on his deal, so he'll almost certainly be back here next year. And I don't feel bad about that at all anymore. I look at Stone Forsythe and I say that is a pretty good backup. He can play both sides of the line as well. So if Stone Forsythe comes back next year as a backup, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And that's it for the offensive line. So let's go over to the defense now. 72 snaps. 72 snaps. They force one punt. They have 0 forced turnovers. I don't know what else people need to see to know that this defense is just irredeemably broken and irredeemably bad. Irredeemably bad, and they're bad on their own merits. They're not bad because of any outside influence on them. They are bad because they are bad, and it's that simple. Okay, so enough about that. Let's talk about this defensive line here. You can see that we were way out of balance. Jaron Reed played 65 out of 72 snaps, which is insane this late in the season. No wonder we got run all over. My gosh. Leonard Williams, 65 snaps out of 72. Yeah, no wonder we were having problems. And then Draymond Jones, who's at this point playing most of his snaps on edge anyway, 55 snaps. So the loss of Mario Edwards destroyed whatever little bit of depth we had, and we basically had to play those two guys the whole game, and then Draymond Jones most of the game. Cam Young played 7 snaps. Austin Folu got his first work of the season with 7 snaps. And Miles Adams got 5 snaps. None of them really stood out to me in any particular way, but when you only play a handful of snaps, it's hard to stand out. So that's it for the defensive line. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bleak, pretty grim. Linebacker, very simple. Bobby Wagner plays every snap because of course he does. Devin Bush plays 65 snaps. Didn't look particularly good, but again, I'm going to continue to say this. When the defense is this incompetent, I'm not going to expect Devin Bush to go out there and look great. Like he's not going to be able to overcome this level of incompetence. Very few players could. So I'm not really pinning anything on him specifically, but it's a lot of blame to go around. And then Nick Bellore played 1 snap on defense as a linebacker. So that's it for that group. Moving us along to the edge group, which as always, well, actually there was a little bit of a change up this week. We did still get a lot of Boye Mafe, 65 snaps, way too many. I think, in fact, that is a season high, so that means that's a career high for him. Ridiculous. I mean, you get what you get. That's why he didn't have a big impact on this game. You're playing him way too much. Darrell Taylor, 21 snaps, so he's really kind of an afterthought at this point, which I can understand that. We already can't stop the run as is, but I mean, this is a guy we spent a second round pick on. It just highlights the bad process, man. It just really highlights the mistakes that have been made. Derek Hall actually got a decent amount of playing time in this game because we had no choice. 26 snaps. I didn't think he looked terrible. I didn't think he stood out in any particularly negative way compared to a guy like a Darrell Taylor. I mean, again, it's a ocean of incompetence on this defense. So what am I going to do? Sit here and act like Derek Hall's the problem? No, not really. I don't think he looked all that bad. So 26 snaps. If we want to keep this up, I'm all for it. Get Derek Hall out there a bunch in this last game. Get him up above 320 snaps on the season. Give him something to build on going into the offseason. What you're doing is working so poorly, you may as well do something else, even if you're 99% sure it's going to work just as poorly. Like, it really cannot get worse. This defense really cannot get that much worse, especially in the run defense. But overall, it's way too inept for a defense with this much talent. And yes, it does have some talent. I know it doesn't have the best talent in the league, but it definitely has more talent than what we're seeing. That's it for the edge group. Frank Clark obviously released, not playing. Tyreek Smith is on the Cardinals practice squad, actually, so after playing 9 snaps in week 2, he's been completely off the table. I wonder if somebody's going to get called up at some point to take a little bit of a load off the shoulders of Boye Mafe. Okay, now we're bumping along to cornerback here, and there isn't a ton to say here. Mike Jackson plays every snap, Woolen plays every snap except for one, and Witherspoon plays about half the game. That's basically all there is to say about it. I think Witherspoon was still working his way through the injury. I think we were trying to take it easy with him. And you saw that he didn't play a particularly great game by his standard or any standard. So there were definitely some issues there. He did make a couple nice plays, which good to see. Still a really good player. Still a player I'm very excited to have going forward. Can't wait to see what he does in year 2. But his year 1 kind of got thrown off the rails a little bit by this injury that basically robbed a month of football from him. Jackson, I thought, played okay. Tariq Woolen played okay. He had a nice breakup on 4th down. But it's hard to really say anybody played well when the defense is that bad overall. Trey Brown, interesting complete afterthought. 7 snaps. I know Mike Jackson's playing well right now. I know he's doing some things that we like. And I know Trey Brown blew really badly a tackle attempt on Freiermuth that probably got his butt on the bench. But I'm surprised that he becomes this much of an afterthought when he has had a fairly good season. Artie Burns, 9 snaps. I think he got hurt, so that was probably a big part of that. And that's it for cornerbacks. So going to safety, real simple. Diggs plays every snap. Love plays every snap. And both guys kind of play badly, and they're both kind of just not particularly special players at this point. Shout out to Julian Love for some of the things that he did do down the stretch, but at the end of the day, he's just not a great player. And again, he's another guy who just can't overcome this ocean of incompetence. Okay, that's it for Snap Count Monday. It's mostly bad. I mean, they're doing what they can, but the fact that this is what they can do really highlights the failure here. It really highlights the failure of what this team did this offseason. So we got one more game left to play. Maybe we'll have another after that one. I don't know. But at this point, it's not really going to change the conversations that we need to have this offseason. Even if this team does win this week, even if this team does go to the playoffs, there are real problems here that need to be addressed and fixed. And these snap counts belay a lot of, or convey, a lot of those problems. See you guys later. Go Hawks.